Welcome to this video where we'll be taking a look at gift ideas for Synth Nerds 2023. We'll cover a range of prices and styles and all sorts of things like that, so you can be sure to find the right thing for you. And with that said, let's get started with the Pocket Operator series by Teenage Engineering. Now each of these is a full synthesizer, drum machine, or groove box, all in a tiny little package, which is just a circuit board with some batteries on the back. There's an input and an output, got the screen, 2 knobs, and 23 buttons. It uses the standard TR style sequencing, and the best thing is each of these is just under $100, except for some special edition ones like this MegaMan, and there's a Street Fighter one. So each one offers a little bit of a different flavor of synthesizer or drum machine, and I'm going to go through most of them to help you decide which is the right one. The first up is Arcade. This one is kind of unique. It's a retro arcade game inspired groove box. So you have different drum sounds, but then you also have different lead sounds that you could control the notes with the first knob. And you could control the tone or a certain filtering parameter with the other knob. Quick, I'll show you how you sequence them. Let's start with this one because it's a kick. So hold sound and select that one, and then you just hit the right button and it'll show recording there, and you could just punch in your notes. And you could edit each note by holding it and turning specific parameters. And you could compose it into a whole sequence like this. And then there's the effects, which you hold the effects. You get a low pass, a pulsating low pass, high pass, a pulsating high pass. You can isolate layers with the top 4 buttons. And you can mix and match these. And everything in the bottom half are momentary effects. Now each one handles its effects a little bit differently. Some record or write the effects into your sequence. Others are just momentary. And the coolest thing with Arcade is it has chords in the back that you could bring in by holding chord, turning the first knob, and then you could pulse it to the rhythm, give it that sidechain effect. And you could change your chord notes by holding chord and selecting any of these 16 steps. And you could even sequence them. That is Arcade. Now, if you're looking for something low and deep and bassy, look no further than the Sub. This is a bass synthesizer with 15 different bass presets with adjustable parameters, and on sound 16, you get a little mini drum kit. So you can select your pattern by holding pattern, and it shows all your selected patterns. And you could sequence your patterns, obviously. And notice there's no effects on this one. There's a key select, and there's a style, which is kind of like effects, but affects the kind of strumming style of the bass. And that's clearly an effect, not a strum. And you can see that it's recording it, and to cancel it out, you just have to hold the style button without pressing anything. with the drums, you get something cool like this. And the 15 sounds are pretty wide-ranging, so you can kind of achieve any bass sounds you want. And the drum sounds. And with a tiny little stereo cable, you can connect them and sync them up by holding the cord or whatever button is here and hitting the BPM until the front one says SY4 and your master clock will be 1. So now I could hit play on arcade and we won't hear anything until we hit play on the sub. Let's adjust our volume, holding BPM, and we get our volume levels. And now let's add those chords in. And that is the sub and connecting the pocket operators. And then we have the pocket operator MegaMan, also known as the robot. The only difference is this one comes preloaded with some MegaMan stuff. Because the synth itself lends itself so well to those MegaMan sounds. When you hold it out, you get that nice vibrato. You could glide in or glide out of the note, and you have your high lead section with your sounds and your low bass sections, and you have a little drum section. So these high notes are great for leads, and the basses are great for the little video gamey 8-bit chippy bass lines. And you see the enemy shoots with the bass, MegaMan shoots with the high, and Dr. Wily does some stuff with the drums. So with the drums, we could get cool, chippy video game drum sounds, or nice video game lead sounds, or full-on grooves. And of course, this one has effects. And that is the MegaMan or robot. And if you like more experimental music or sounds, or just like introducing samples of real-world sounds, but like to keep it related to the office, you're covered here with some old office sounds like discs loading, fax machines going, things scrolling, things clicking, things beeping and booping. And you can make it into nice rhythmic content. And that is the office. And this brings us to the drum synths. The first one is Rhythm. Now this is a standard 808 kind of style kit. It doesn't really have the best snare, but if you combine the regular snare, you have some settings here, and you combine it with the clap, and then you're cooking. Now, this one I would recommend to anyone starting out and wants a cheap drum machine to kind of dip their toes in the water. This is actually an excellent drum machine, and I've used it on a good handful of tracks. It works great. The only thing is you get all your drums mixed together and your output, so mixing is a little bit tougher, but you can manage or use it for chops and breaks and things like that, and you're good to go. So let's get a sequence going. Now we have a nice little dance beat, and you do get some bass and note sounds that you have a little bit of timbre control, and they're great for adding bleeps and bloops to your patterns. That is the rhythm. And then if you want to dive a little bit deeper into drums, there's Tonic, which is a little bit more interesting of a drum machine. First, you'll notice that this one and the last one were in a case. These are just some little handmade cases I got from an independent seller. I don't remember his name, but surely you could find them just searching pocket operator case or protector. Now notice there are those vertical lines going down each set of 4 buttons, because each lane here, you can only have one of those drums playing at a certain time. So they kind of choke each other out. So you have your choke groups, which is nice. And you get interesting drum hits with modifiable parameters. And the coolest part is all of these sounds are customizable in a separate standalone editor that you could purchase, the Tonic, I believe it's called, and it's under $200, I remember, because it's its own standalone synthesizer and drum machine. This is kind of like a hardware version of it, but you get the control to craft each sound with the set of waveforms and noise and things like that you could intermingle in to create each hit and assign the modulation parameters. And you get cool drum beats like this. So we sequence these all up. And that is the pocket operator Tonic. And also not demoed in this video are Factory for leads and chords, Speak, a vocal synthesizer, and KO, the sampler, which is also the Street Fighter one. And that is the Pocket Operator series by Teenage Engineering. And now on to the Korg Volcas. The Volcas are independent synthesizers, similar to the Pocket Operators, but a little bit bigger and a little bit more classic TR style sequencing. These are more independent. They don't have like little drum machines built in and things like that. We have a bass synthesizer. There's a new bass. There's an FM. There's a modular. There's a drum. There's a handful of drum ones. There's a kick one. There's a sampler. There's a V2 sampler. And there's the Volca keys for polyphony. Now, each of these are under $200, just about. They can all sync together easily with the sync in and out. And then there's headphone out, and you can control them via Midi for most of them, other than the modular. Now let's dive in and take a little closer look at each one, hear how they sound, and see which one's right for you. This is the Volca Bass. It's a monophonic bass synthesizer, but you could kind of have up to 3 voices. So this is a simple lead mono bass synthesizer. You have your cutoff knob and resonance. You get that nice squelchy sound. And you can apply your cutoff to the envelope generator. You can apply an LFO into the filter. And there are 3 oscillators, so you could select each one, and we can adjust the pitch of each one relative to our main note. So this one we have an octave down. Second one, and we could choose between a sine and a pulse wave. And the third one is a pulse. So turn them all on, and I'm going to throw one off a few cents to give us a little bit larger sound. And we can also vary up the sequence by changing it for the different synths. And you can also adjust the slides. And that's the Volca Bass. Now we have the Korg Volca FM, which is kind of modeled after the Yamaha DX7. It even has these little sliders here, similar color scheme, all that good stuff. Now this one, I believe you have up to 4 voices of polyphony. There's nice tempo settings with the sequencer, so you could have the time or quarter the time or go full time. You could go poly, mono, unison. You could add chorus, you can arpeggiate. And if you like to spend a lot of time building your patch, there is this whole programming section here with all the algorithms and all the settings and what they mean. Here are some of the other sounds in my presets, at least. Some of them I didn't change, but some of them I modified. So this is a great wide voice ranging synth. It's just if you want to spend the time to create them or just modify from the presets that exist in here, which I suggest is the best route to go. Find the thing closest and modify from there. So it's sort of a deep dive kind of synthesizer, but it's really fun once you get the patches all preset in. And I like just playing it with the Midi in. And that's the Volca FM. And this is the Volca Drum. The Volca Drum is a drum synthesizer that creates its drum sounds through East Coast synthesis means of the envelope generator and the bass waveform, and you can apply modifiers and things like that to each drum, up to 2 different voices per drum. So you could get like the hiss of the snare and then the hit of the snare, and you get 6 drums and 16 different kits, and then 16 different patterns you can save. And there's also a delay reverb section of the drum machine, and you could send any of the drums independently to that. And let's take a listen to how this sounds with some of the different kits. Now let's send this kick to the delay. More of a reverb effect. Change the tone of it a bit. Now we have a delay. And that's the Volca Drum. And this is the Volca Sample. It's a sampler drum machine with a bunch of different parameters for each sample, and you can automate them. There's a built-in reverb that you could assign to just specific tracks. There's a bass control, so you could cut it and boost it, and same with the treble. You could store up to 100 samples, and there is a time limit with the samples. And you upload them with an app on your computer into the input here. Now, what's great about this is you have all the manipulation and automation of all these features of when the track starts, stops. You could reverse it, you can apply envelopes to it, you can apply envelopes to the speed of it, and you could do a high cut. There's a song mode, but then you could also just jump around to your patterns. And that's the Volca Sample. And this is the Volca Modular. Now, this is a good intro synthesizer to modular if you want to learn more about modular, especially West Coast style synthesis. This is your synth. I'll show you just from this simple sequence how cool of a sound we can get from it just by modulating and patching things. First, we have our bass sine wave. Or we could have a triangle wave that is an octave down, I believe. So we have our nice sub. We can fold and cross-modulate our signals and change the ratio, which I believe is the general speed of our mod. So first, let's add that bass in. So I'm going to take that triangle wave and plug it into the second low-pass gate here. And then we need something to open that low-pass gate. So I'm going to send a quarter clock into this envelope generator here. And then I'm going to send that out, the positive out, into the CV input. So now we have control over the envelope time and the shape of it. Now let's say we want to slew the sequence. We take our notes output, which is our volt per octave, and go into the woggle input. And then we're going to go out the slew output and go into our note input here. And now we need to clock our slew. So I'm going to send it a clock every note hit. And that's basically doing the same thing. But what if I extend the clock and do a halftime clock? We already changed up our sequence, and I think it sounds cooler, especially once we start folding it and modulating it. Now let's take our original woggle output and put it into the space out amount. And now we have a nice cool bass line here that we can lay something over in a song. And that is the Volca Modular. And those are some of the Korg Volcas. Now let's take a look at the Microkorg by Korg. Now this is an up to 4-voice polyphonic or monophonic synthesizer or vocoder. There's a built-in arpeggiator, easy octave shift buttons, a mod wheel, pitch bend, your basic features you want to control while you're performing, and you can modify anything else with these knobs here to to build anything else from scratch. Now, there are your standard waveforms in here and LFO waves, and there's also some digital waveforms that model other instruments and other things. So you could build almost any synth sound that you're looking for. Is the first thing that I got. If I could choose only one thing for the rest of my life, it would be the Microkorg. Though the Microkorg is a bit more expensive, it's under 400, but it's over 200. But you could pick up a used one of these for a bit cheaper nowadays. I mean, it's been around for over 20 years. I got this one like 15 years ago and I got it used then. So there's no shortage of them. Pick one up. Up next is the Arturia Keystep. Just this basic one. It is about $130, available everywhere pretty much. This is a 32 key mini keyboard, but the keys still have some good pressure to them. I think this feels better keyboard wise than the Microkorg. Then you have this little mod slider wheel. You have a pitch bend. You could choose between arpeggiating and sequencing, and you have a bunch of different settings for your arpeggio or your time divisions. I added a little piece of tape here because I use this for my main MIDI router to everything. I send all the MIDI from my DAW into the Keystep here, and then I send the MIDI out to a big MIDI hub splitter, and that sends the MIDI cables out to all of my synthesizers, and then all I have to do is hold Shift, and I can press the specific key or number for that MIDI channel. Now, honestly, most of the time, I don't even use this for its keyboard feature or any of the sequencer features or anything like that. I just use it for the MIDI out, the sync out if I'm going to my modular, or the CV outputs if I'm sequencing something with this for my modular. And again, I could be sending that sequence straight from my DAW. And the next MIDI controller is the Novation Launchpad Mini Mark III. Now, this one is under $200, and it's a full controller for your DAW. You can use it to record tracks in your session view. You can play some drums. You could play some keys, though this is still assigned to the drums. And you could have user settings, which I don't have set up right now. In the session view, you could launch tracks. You can move around in your view. You can move up and down. You can start, stop, and mute specific tracks. And you could do great performative things like recording loops on the go. Now I can say something with my voice and loop it. Now I can say something with my voice and loop it. Now I can say something with my voice and loop it. Now I can say something with my voice and loop it. Now I can say something with my voice and loop it. And of course, you could dive super deep into this or use it for basic needs. I mostly use it just for launching tracks, and it works great for that. And it's just worth the money for even just that. the Novation Launchpad Mini Mark III. Next is the Noise Machine SVE by This.Is.Noise Inc. Now, this is a little mini Bluetooth controller that you can connect to pretty much anything: your phone, iPad, Bluetooth sequencers, a Bluetooth drum kit, anything. You have 12 buttons representing the chromatic scale, basically in MIDI notes, and you could go up octaves with the slider, and it shows with the connect button going on and off that you're switching between the modes. And then we have this knob, which could be assignable to anything, and that does not change when the slider moves. Right now, I just have this connected up to a drum kit in Ableton, so we could play some finger drums, or we could play keyboard, and I assigned some effects to our drums with this knob here. And this, I believe, is also under $100. And that is the Noise Machine SVE by This.Is.Noise Inc. And the last of the MIDI controllers is another from This.Is.Noise Inc., the MIDI Blaster. Now, this is an expressive hand control that you could assign to anything. It's not Bluetooth like their other one, so it connects to your computer or whatever you want to connect to with the USB. And I actually have this set up with my modular right now to just control an oscillator's volume. And you can freeze it so it stays in place, unfreeze it, and in each mode you get to assign the MIDI CC for each of the 4 sensors, and you get to set your different height range for each one, so you can see some are reacting higher up and then others react lower down. It's just a great expressive tool, a replacement for a foot pedal, say, or a joystick, and it's great for any music producer, synth nerd, modular addict, what have you. This one is under $200. It's available at This.Is.Noise Inc.'s website, and it's just another great product from This.Is.Noise Inc. Up next is, and if you want to go the modular route, there are 2 modules here that I'm going to show that are both under $100, and even if they have one already, they'll gladly want another one. First up is the Wasp filter by Doepfer. This has a low pass, high pass, and band pass outputs. And what's really unique about this filter is the resonance here. At certain spots, you get these sweet spots where it really distorts in a really unique way. And then even your waveform choice will determine how it freaks out. And as I mentioned, even if someone already has this Wasp filter, they would gladly take another one so they could do it in stereo. And this is the simple ADSR envelope generator from Blue Lantern. We have attack, decay, sustain, release, and in overall time. This can work as a regular envelope generator with ADSR. You go linear or exponential. You can do a gated loop for some momentary LFOs. Or you could just straight on loop it as a unipolar LFO. As I mentioned before, with the Wasp filter, someone has this already or has envelope generators, they would gladly accept another ADSR or LFO for their system, especially with an attenuator built in. And at under $100 each, you can't go wrong. And that's it. That's my list of 2023 gift ideas for synth nerds that are all affordable across a nice range of money, so you can kind of see what works best for you, whether it's Volca's pocket operators, some modules, MIDI controllers, the Microkorg, whatever it is, you'll sure to be find something that fits your needs. And if you can't find quite the right thing, there's always gift cards to their favorite synth shop. That's it. Hope I helped you out with deciding some things. And until next time, I hope everyone has some great holidays and a Happy New Year.